Welcome to a third series of Recall the Midwife. Today we are looking at series 3, episode 1. I'm Alex.
I'm Becky.
I'm Jen. And just a quick reminder that this week's episode deals with severe childhood illness and postpartum depression. So if those are topics you would prefer to skip this time, we understand and hope you join us for the next one.
So in today's episode, Jenny Lee is just finishing a night shift when she encounters Merle Vickers. Merle is struggling with a sickly toddler and a new baby that won't settle. While Jenny Lee and Dr. Turner investigate the cause of the mystery illness, Sister Monica Jones steps in with a diagnosis of cystic fibrosis. The midwives and nuns are moving back into the new Nonnatus House, and the clinic has moved to the community centre, but the mums of Poplar are so used to the parish hall that the clinic is empty. Chummy comes up with a plan to invite Princess Margaret to the Chummy comes up with a plan to invite Princess Margaret to open the community centre, which causes much excitement in Poplar. So, ladies, I will say that Sister Monica Jones does not just come up with a diagnosis of cystic fibrosis. She comes up with
salt water on the head.
Diagnosis that the child's forehead tastes salty when you kiss it, but it was ultimately cystic fibrosis.
She kind of gives some little gingerbread or like breadcrumbs that help Dr. Turner get to cystic fibrosis, which was very helpful. But yeah, no, she pulls out a book from like, I don't know, 1751 or something, and she's like, this sounds suspiciously like what this child is dealing with. And then,
do you know what my favorite bit was, where she said, I have come across this before, and they say the child will not live past 5 years old, and I was like, oh, that's cheery. That'll really help the parents.
Yeah,
that's just what you want to hear. Yeah, when you got 2 kids who are ill.
Well, also the line that comes a little earlier than that is when she's talking to Sister Evangelina, and she goes, "Once something is known, it can never be unknown." And I was like, "Oh, that is definitely not true." Like,
that was a beautiful scene. We'll go on to that later, but.
No, the scene itself was beautiful, but that line just kind of like, and I get what she meant in that moment in that line, but I was like, well, that's not really true, but sure, in this scene, yes,
but it was with desperation. Well. Anyway, right, yeah. Let's start it off by, can we just talk about the first scene? I'm all about the first scenes. The first scene where this poor woman, this very faceless, they never saw him again. This baby came out fine. You're like, oh, well, aren't you glad you had that? Like, you know, worth it, wasn't it? And she was like, oh, I don't care if I never sleep again. Yes, you will. Anyway, but she was like, oh, I don't like, oh, she needs to eat or whatever. The mum was like, she needs to eat. I've got her an ice bun. And she was like, Mum, you know, I don't like an ice bun. And Jenny, when she was like, oh, do you know, I just could. And I was like, oh, when I was starving watching that, I thought, do you know, I could too.
I love an ice bun.
Same.
Oh, well, speaking of food and Jenny, what made me laugh was when Jenny finally gets back from that birth and everything, and she's sitting she goes into her new bedroom, and she and Trixie are now going to share a bedroom, and Trixie's like, oh, isn't it grand, we'll do all this, and da-da-da. She's like, no one's ever said I've snored before or whatever, and then Jenny sits down, and you could tell she's just so exhausted, but Trixie's like, oh, would you like some chocolates? Like, she has a milk tray or something like that. And Jenny is like, oh, I'd like a lime barrel and a something else. And she's like, but if I eat those, I'll ruin my lunch. I was just like, 2 chocolates and your appetite is going to be gone.
You know what, Jen? I've written here, lime barrel, cinnamon will. I'll ruin my lunch, but I don't care. And I've put, that would not ruin my lunch.
Like, that would barely touch the cavern of my stomach before I would be going down there to eat like 4 sandwiches and like 10.
That wouldn't even ruin my snack. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that would not. I was like, Jenny, give me a break. I was like, I do not have time for these people who are like, I have to stop, otherwise I'm gonna ruin my appetite. And it's like 1 French fry or something. I'm like, give me a break. But anyways, okay. So how do we want to just quick to break it up? So we've got kind of the Merle Vickers story with her children. Then we've got Chummy doing all of this stuff. And then
we've also got the moving into the Nonnatus house.
Right.
Obviously, it's all changed, isn't it, after the bomb from the Christmas special?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, Fred, they have this lovely scene where Fred's putting up the plaque for Nonnatus house. But Fred, when I say Fred, I mean your spirit animal.
Yes.
And but he's putting this plaque up saying Nonnatus house, and it's all excitement there. And then you've got Chummy and not Chummy, Cynthia and Trixie, moving into with their cases, and like, oh, look at it.
Didn't Trixie look glamorous?
Oh,
yeah. I love seeing him in civilian clothes because it's so like fashion of the time, you know? I love those scenes.
Yeah, she's very, very much like, I feel like they've done that with Trixie on purpose so they can actually play with that as well in the wardrobe department. Like, it must be amazing working in the wardrobe department there, because you're thinking, oh, we've got something else, you know, we can do something else with this.
Well, and speaking of fashions, Chummy, but now that she's kind of like a civilian housewife, she's got some really interesting fashions this episode as well. And I was like, oh, anyways, we'll get there. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but anyways.
So they move into the house. Everything's all brand new Nonnatus House as we now know it. And the Sister Monica Jones, she's playing up a bit, isn't she? She's going a bit funny. Yeah. She's talking about the vapors, and then she's like scared of the urinals that maybe just lol.
Yeah, which I will say, I mean, I know I get on Sister Monica Jones, but like for someone in her situation to be in a completely new environment, that's so disruptive for all of us to have to make a big move, but especially for her kind of stage of life and some of the, you know, cognitive issues she's dealing with. I wasn't surprised that she was kind of acting up, let's say, a little bit. So I did give her credit for that. Yeah.
But she's talking about the vapors, and Fred's like, it's just the smell of wet paint.
And the girls are like, yeah, that's exactly what we thought it was probably.
So they're all moving in. You've discussed the scene with Jenny in the bedroom. So Trixie's getting her room together and stuff, and basically taking up the whole wardrobe. But then they're also setting up the clinic and everything. Not the clinic, where they've got all the instruments and things like that. And it's like cavernous. It's massive. And they're all trying to do that, and they're still going through everything. And they found out they've got some things that are broken, and they're all trying to go through that. And it's absolute bedlam. But they also talk about the fact that they're moving around. Like, I feel like this is a very settling in episode, because they're, you know, everything by the end of this episode, everything's quite settled in there. But they're talking about the fact that the clinic on a Tuesday for all the new mums is moving around all the time, and no one knows where it is anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, but this is obviously building up to Chummy and her part in the episode, because obviously they're trying to find, basically they now just, what do you call him? Dr. Turner comes in, newlywed Dr. Turner. Can I just say also, they have a scene with newlywed Dr. Turner and his wife. She's like reading his notes, and she's like, oh, I need to set you handwriting exercises.
Oh, like, that was one of my deleted scenes. I didn't see that.
Oh, well, it's weird. Bex, did you not think that was weird?
It was weird.
He and Sheila at times, like, I love them as a couple, but they do sometimes like say and do things that I'm like, oh, I don't know, just a little cringe. The thing that made me kind of, I don't know, when he was polishing Tim's
I thought that was so sweet that he was polishing them.
Oh, it was very sweet, but
he didn't just polish one.
Yeah, exactly. Tim was like, did you stop halfway in the middle? He's like, well, actually I did, which, like, big surprise. But then when Sheila is like sewing the like the baby dress, and and clearly that there's no way that that's the first time he's seen that garment, but like he acts like he's like, oh my dear, what is that? And she's like, oh, it's a baby dress. And he's like, oh, wait, what does that mean? And she's like, no, it doesn't mean anything. But she's like, but I have had the courage to hope. And it was a very sweet scene, but at the same time it was like sweet and cheesy and kind of cringe.
The sewing, her sewing
glove.
Yeah.
Her love language. But also in that scene where he basically thinks she's then pregnant, and they do that thing where they like clutch hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you don't do that, Bex.
Don't you do that, Al, with your husband all the time? Just stop and give each other a loving look, and then just
we do that after we've been dancing to slow records, and then we get back to dancing to slow records. Yeah,
and then you have like a confessional about how much you love each other and everything.
Yeah, always happens that. So right now, are we doing babies first, or are we doing Chummy?
Let's talk about.
Go ahead, Bex.
Should we talk about Merle Vickers first?
Yes, go on, Bex.
Well, I just thought I thought how sweet that she's like talking about the nappies or the diapers, and she's like, there's so many of them, even Billy has to help. And I'm thinking, oh, how sweet, even Billy helps. But then I'm like, why shouldn't he help?
Yeah.
So actually, I think he's being really sweet, but actually he's just doing the bare minimum.
Yeah. Well, and did you hear I thought actually Billy should go into our pantheon of like really sweet, cute husbands, by the way, because I thought he was very cute, but also like very, very nice man.
I think he's a famous actor as well, and I was like, I've seen him in loads of stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
He looked familiar, but I could not place him in anything else. But we'll figure it out. But the thing that makes me laugh when she says that in front of Jenny is that then he goes, yeah, don't tell him down at the dockyards, like he doesn't want it getting out that he's actually like pitching in for his kids. And I was like,
oh, just while we're on this, the other day when we had the quotes,
yeah,
you had when you were like, oh, Hooter's gone for the thing, and I was like, only when I listened to it afterwards, I was like, oh, the Hooter's gone for the start of the shift. So there's a massive woo, woo.
Oh,
yes. So
that's what that is.
Yes.
Oh, see, there you go.
But only when I listened back, I didn't really understand that. Again, lost in translation. It's not your accent or anything, but at the time, Hooter's gone. I was like, what? Okay. But now I've listened back. I'm like, oh, the Hooter's gone for the afternoon shift.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry, carry on, ladies.
No, that's really good context. I would not have put that together. There's so many. Oh, speaking of, there's a couple of really funny words in this. So we'll get there to this bigger storyline, but the mom who Chummy helps deliver in towards the end of the episode, she says I something about like I really want a Rennie's. I think it's like something for like her acid reflux or like digestion.
It's Gaviscon. Do you have Gaviscon?
Yes. Yeah, like we have that.
Indigestion, basically.
Yeah, and then when Chummy says she's made the pamphlet and she's showing it to Sister Julianne, but Sister Julianne is like, "Oh, I really love this pamphlet. I'm going to keep this one." And she said, "Can I keep this one?" And she says, "Oh no, I have to get down to the library and get it copied on the Roneo." And I was like, "Oh, wow." Like I think what she just means like a Xerox machine, basically. But I had never heard the term.
They're not done yet, so it'll be a printing one that you do with your handle.
Yeah, but I had not ever heard the term Roneo before, so just a few little things on that.
Yeah. No, I hadn't either.
I hadn't either because it's not the 1950s.
Yeah,
right. So
back to Merle. So I really feel for her from the beginning of this episode because
so let's explain what a situation is.
Yeah, so Jenny encounters her after she's helped another mother give birth, that Joan that she gave birth to, and she comes out and she's like, "Oh, Merle, how are you doing?" Merle's hanging up some washing outside in the apartment, and she's like, "Oh, I'm doing okay, but my little one, he kind of seems off, like he's not really eating very much, like his tummy is upset all the time, like."
Yeah, she asks Jenny to look at him, doesn't she, and just double check if she sees okay.
Yeah, and Jenny, I mean, I like no criticism of Jenny, but Jenny literally walks over and like puts her hand on his tummy, and she's like, "Oh, he seems fine. Oh, why don't you just bring him to clinic?" You know what I mean? Like she did
and that's where they mention that they don't know where clinic is anymore because it's moving. And she's like, "Oh, we're in the Siemens mission on Tuesday, but we are hoping to find a permanent venue. Hence setting up the rest of the storyline."
Yeah.
But anyway, carry on. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Merle is like, you can tell she's really underwater already at this point, so she's like, okay, I'll try to make it or whatever. Well, she doesn't make it to clinic, and so Jenny follows back up with her, and when she
brings Sister Winifred as well this time.
We meet Sister Winifred for the first time.
Winifred. I know we need to talk about her in a minute, but let's do the storyline first.
So my synopsis was so rubbish this week. I apologize to our listeners
and us
and you mainly.
We'll decide later if we're gonna forgive
I'm always apologizing. Right, carry on, Jen. I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. So Sister Winifred and Jenny go to check, and we've talked about this before, but like really like fundamental hygiene is a challenge in these places. And Merle is she has one sink basically to clean all of her nappies and do all of her dishwashing and sanitizing and everything. And so Jenny at first is just thinking that maybe the baby is not really doing very well because the breastfeeding is not totally working, and then she's topping the baby up with bottle milk, but she's maybe struggling to sanitize the baby bottles, and that's what's going on.
And Sister Evangelina is so stringent on it. She's like, I know I shouldn't. Can I just say on this scene though, Sister Winifred was amazing. She was like, great. I've never met a baby yet who's read the rule book about breastfeeding, and I was just like, I loved it so much. I thought it was so supportive and amazing, and like so understanding. And I love Sister Winifred.
She's wonderful.
I have to say that sink full of nappies.
Oh my God.
Water.
Oh my God.
I spoke to my mum. So I was born in 81 and my brother was born in 79. And we had terry toweling nappies. And my mum said she used to have this like massive vat of like just dirty nappies that she'd soak and then put in the wash like it just sounds absolutely disgusting. And she's like, oh, you don't know you're born with these disposable nappies when I had my daughter. And I was like, well, I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah. Well, my mom has a lot of experience with reusable cloth diapers as well, both with her brothers and everything, because she's the oldest of four. And then we lived overseas for a little while when I was born, and they had, only cloth diapers there. And so she was like, she's talked, at length about, well, if you do that, then you have to do this first. And that there's a whole method, obviously, to like getting these things
they're
clean.
a big thing now, sustainability.
Oh yeah,
they're a big. My cousin uses them for her too.
Yeah,
and it's a big
it's
thing.
moved on a long way though, isn't it?
Yeah,
well, but still.
My sister and brother-in-law were going to do it when their twins were born, and they literally, and now this is not their fault, but they had twins and they signed up for the service, and they live in New York City, and that lasted for maybe like 6 weeks, and then they were like, cancel subscription, like we are going to buy disposable diapers. And they were not even on the hook for cleaning them. Like literally they put all the dirty diapers into a contained, like very sealed, sanitized thing, and then they would get picked up, and then new fresh ones would be delivered back to them. But they were just like, this is not working. Like we live in 2022. And so anyway, so we had a bit of a laugh over that. But anyway, so they check on the baby. Jenny is, she's really good and proactive, and she says, listen, whatever happens medically, we will come every single day, put you on our daily rota, and we'll come and like help you with the diapers.
Yeah, and the babies are just coughing all the time.
Yeah,
they're never happy, they're never full, they're always unsettled, both of them. Baby Martin is the older one. No, Ian's the older one, baby Martin's the younger one, isn't it?
And then Billy, very, like being a really good dad here, Jenny is like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow or whatever. She walks out and he runs after. He's like, nurse. And she, she's like, okay, what is it? And he's like, well, listen, he's like, I don't know if this means anything, but I just wanted to let you know that, my baby brother, he passed away when he was 4 1/4. My mom always makes a big deal about the quarter because, she wants to give him all the time. And I don't know if this has anything to do with that, but like I have a lot of, I'm anxious because I've already had a loss in my family, and now these boys aren't doing very well, and just in case that might mean anything to you. And Jenny's like, well, I don't know, maybe whatever. But
and he's like, no.
It's fine. Anyway, she's very like.
The other thing was when Jenny Lee was telling Dr. Turner about the fact that Billy had a younger brother who'd died because basically of failure to thrive.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, oh, do you think it's connected? Dr. Turner was like, do you think that's just making them more anxious? And I was just like, maybe it's connected.
Maybe it's medical history for the family.
Well, that's the thing. Like, like Dr. Turner and Jenny are the two, kind of like current modern medical professionals, and they both really miss a lot of like big signs.
Well, Dr. Turner's there chain smoking, so you know what I mean?
Oh my God, I know. Well, and Dr. Turner does like run a lot of tests on the baby and the little boy, but he's like, oh, they're all coming back clear. I just don't know what it could be. And and the thing is, poor Merle, she just kind of keeps like falling.
So while this is all going on, she's getting more and more tired. When they're asleep, she can't even sleep. She's just, the piece is just making her worry more. She's basically spiraling. Her hands are all cracked from like doing nappies constantly, then cleaning them, and all that. And then she's obviously, it's awful when they won't sleep and they're not sleeping, and when they do sleep, she's upset. It's just this horrible cycle. And then basically it all culminates. Am I saying that? I'm saying that really weird.
Yeah.
Sometimes words just sound weird. Anyway, it all culminates in baby
now
Martin.
You're saying it weird.
I know, I am now saying it weird. I wasn't at first. He's having a fit, and she sees it straight away, and she is the kind of mum that you would want to be in that situation. She recognised it, she saw, and she ran. She was like, no time for
barefoot.
Barefoot to Nonnatus House straight away. Oh, it was amazing. It was like the best thing I've ever seen. It made me like nearly burst into tears because I was just like, that is so amazing. That's the kind of thing you'd hope. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Wait, so really quick, just before that scene though, Sister Monica Joan had made the comment about, because Jenny was talking about this with Sister Julianne, but Sister Monica Joan was in the room, and Jenny was like, oh, this is all about this family's case. And Sister Julianne was like, oh my goodness, that's terrible or whatever. Well, Sister Monica Joan puts 2 and 2 together, and she says, oh, I read a case one time about a baby who had all these symptoms, and they didn't really know what it was, but this was what happened. And that's when she makes the comment about usually not living past 5 years old. Well, Sister Monica Joan walks through the rain to Dr. Turner's house, and she says, please read this book. This is the book that I referenced that everyone was very dismissive to me about. And he's like, okay, well, I've got to get you home. So
yeah, but she also says, hark, for he is a man and a physician. Like, people will listen to him. They won't listen to me. Like, yeah, you are going a bit crazy, though, after going in the rain, aren't you, mate? Like, you could have just, like, done it a bit less dramatically.
I agree.
She's got a history, though.
But...
She's got a history with Dr. Turner. Do you remember when he tried to have her committed?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True. He was nicking people's things, though.
Yeah, and in all fairness, like, yeah, there is that, just inherent sexism in the whole, kind of system that they have back then. So anyway, so then he's like, kind of like, oh, well, but clearly he takes her words to heart. And then the next morning he's reading the medical books while Timothy is putting his braces on. And then he's like
done and one shoe not.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, oh, I think I figured something out. Well, so Merle is at Nonnatus house with the baby who's having the seizure. Dr. Turner runs in and he's like, wait a minute. And then that's when the pieces all get put together. And Sister Monica
Jones kisses him on the forehead, like salt.
Salty like the sea. Yeah, exactly. And then they take him to the hospital, and then that's what they say, that this little child and his brother most likely have cystic fibrosis. Which, can we just talk about the scene at the hospital between Merle and Billy? Oh my goodness, girls. Okay, as you know, I'm a historic crier, but when the two parents were sitting there in between their two children who were in hospital beds getting treatment, and Billy said to his wife Merle, I just feel so bad. Like, I did this to them. I gave them this because this the doctor said it runs in families. And she says, no, Billy, like, you heard the doctors. It takes two. I had to give something to them too for this to happen. And she's like, but listen, she's like, none of that matters. This is what matters. And then she grabs his hand and she's like talking about like the bond of love that like holds families together and like gets them through anything that they're going through. And it was just the most beautiful moment of like, just, they both, I just loved it. They're just so committed and such good, dedicated
but
parents.
it was just so human and raw. Like, it was such a good scene. This is why we love Call The Midwife.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, and just to see like such a strong marriage, I mean, like, there's so many different types of marriages that are shown in this show, and there's so many different types of just human relationships that are shown, but like, I think sometimes, the subtlety and the nuance and the difference of what parenting and husband and wife relationships can be can get a bit diluted in a lot of other shows and movies and things like that. But on this show, they just show people really like rising to the occasion, and then also like doing horrible things, and they just have such a wonderful way of like really illustrating every single part of that spectrum of human ability and behavior,
humanity.
Yeah, and I just feel like Merle and Billy are just two that we should just hold up and like just give so much credit for like how they they always advocated for their kids. They never just said, oh well, I guess it's our fault or the kids just aren't doing well. Like, even when the doctors and everything were kind of mystified, they said no, something is happening, and I just really
it was amazing.
Yeah, right, and now, then more equals as well, Merle and Billy, which is what
because he helped with the nappies. So
yeah. Purely that.
Yep.
So while we're on these lot, let's talk about Sister Winifred, because obviously this is part of this side, Miss Sister Monica as well, Sister Monica Joan. But Sister Winifred comes, right, and she's so lovely, and she's like, hello everyone, and she's so like a breath of fresh air and so nice and all that.
Yeah.
I love her. But do you know what really annoying? I just don't feel very welcome to her. Like, that's like, they're supposed to be like their sisters and stuff. They're just not that welcoming. And like, you can tell Sister Monica Joan finds her really annoying. Like, she's supposed to be talking a lot. Maybe that's why I identify with her, I don't know. But like, she's just a bit mean to it. But then like, they turn up and she's like, they have like a fish and chip supper thing, and there's a rogue Savoy that Chummy didn't mean to get, but it's there. And she's like, oh, what would you like? Like, and Sister Evangeline is like, oh, what would you like to eat? And Sister Winifred, very kindly and lovely, says, oh, whatever anyone doesn't want. So she just plants this Savoy on a plate. And you're like, offer her half of a bloody haddock or something. Like, it just really annoyed me. I was like, it's supposed to be like sisters of like kindness and caring, and you just get what you want. Sister Winifred.
But Sister Evangelina did acknowledge, because she said to her, that's the right answer.
Yeah, but Yeah, but then she could have been like, oh, that is the right answer. Ha. Here's half a sausage. I'll split it with you and I'll have half a haddock with you.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I totally agree.
I was once, not in a similar situation, but I was once, well, we were eating a burger from a burger van and I dropped my burger onto concrete. So I picked it back up and then the person that I was with offered to swap burgers and I was like, oh, thank you, but no, it's fine. I've dropped it. I'll eat it.
Just get a burger.
I know, get a fresh one. The burger van is clearly still right there in the story bags.
To be honest, this isn't a great story.
It's not. You do not come out. Were you quite drunk there?
No, it was daytime.
Oh, really?
It was daytime and you were going to eat a street burger.
No, we're not cutting this, Bex. Carry on.
Wait, did you eat a burger that had fallen on the floor? We all have to know.
Yeah, I did.
Oh.
But another person I was with basically said that to the person that had offered to swap, that was the right thing to do. And then they'd said to me that I had done the right thing by not swapping.
They're right. That is absolutely disgusting. You shouldn't have eaten it.
You should have been like, no, don't ruin your burger. I'll just get a new burger instead of like, but listen, you sold your bond.
It was fine. I lived to podcast.
But if anything, it's just strengthened your immune system. Anyway, right now, while we're talking about the nuns, really, really quickly, before we go on to Chummy, I want to talk about a scene with Sister Evangelina and Sister Monica Joan that we kind of touched on before.
Okay.
So there's a scene where, so Sister Monica Joan is busy in herself, and they're worried that she's getting a bit like not right again, because obviously of the move and the discombobulation and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But she's actually sorting out her books, her library, and she's got a real purpose to her, and she's gone to get wood and bricks to make a new library, a new bookcase and stuff.
And the reason they're worried is because she's ripping whole chapters of the Bibles out and then throwing them
that is worrying.
Sister Winifred has found the pages.
So that makes them think that she's
so that bit's worrying, but she does have a purpose. She's like what do you call it when you put covers on book, recovering books? That's what you do. That's what it's called.
What do you call it when you put a new cover on a book?
Anyway. So she's doing that anyway. Sister Evangelina comes in after Winifred's warned her about the books, about the pages of the Bible, what's going on. And she's like, I have purpose. And she's like, yes, I can see that. And she kind of warms to it. And she's like, I was never into books. It's a really gorgeous scene, like so well acted by both of them. But that's when she's like, once something is known, it cannot be unknown, can it? And the panic in her voice and the look is so well acted. It's beautifully acted. Mm-hmm. And Sister Evangelina's like, no, it can't. No, it bloody well can. But she's like,
for real.
But I think it's a really nice scene, actually showing love between those two. And I just wanted to highlight it now.
It was a lovely scene. Sister Monica Joan was on fire in this episode with just pearls of wisdom.
It's because I've taken over a soul now, because I in the episode said that that's who I would be.
Exactly. No, this episode she was really wonderful. I got to give her all the credit she's due. She really was wonderful.
She does get better, right, Chummy, baby Freddie. Can we talk about baby Freddie? Cutie.
Oh, that little playpen while she was rolling out the pastry and he was just laying there. Oh gosh, I loved it. Oh, can I just tell you though, like it always makes me laugh when there's like people who are doing food preparation in any like TV show or whatever, because there's sometimes where they do it really well. And I'm not talking about like a reality show or like a competition show where people are actually trying to like really cook, but I'm talking about like acting of cooking or whatever. And as soon as Chummy was like sat at that kitchen table with that pastry, like rolling out that little like 4x6 little teeny tiny piece of pastry, and she like had the whisk and she was like, I was like, wow, this is really, it really made me laugh. And I also it kind of took me out a little bit because I was like, that does not look genuine on any level. Like that is just it was the tiniest piece of pastry, like the way that she was picking it up, just the whole, so you can
show how often I cook, because I did not notice that did not look genuine.
It looked like the most fake cooking I've ever seen. And like even when she was reading the thing and she was like, oh, like she burned the filling for the apple pies on the stovetop, and then she like had made whatever the pies were, but then she burned them in the oven and everything.
Chicken and leek, I think it did sound delicious.
It
did.
Oh my god, Chummy, but I will say this, like they illustrated this in a couple different ways, and the cooking was just one part, but and Peter, I mean, I had so much love for Peter. I still love Peter, but Oh my gosh. But anyways, but like she went from like the transition into full-time housewife is really tough, you know, and all of a sudden she's like, what am I supposed to do with myself all day? Like, yeah, I have a kid, yeah, I have a house to take care of, but like this is so boring, and like all of
Yeah.
the hours to fill, and like
Thing is though, like I do have to say, she's got a 4-month-old bit, and I'm just like, she's like, oh, she says here, like, oh, time, I'm knee deep in time, and I'm like,
oceans of it.
How are you knee deep? Like, you've got a 4-month, like, I could not cope. How have you got lashings of time? I wasn't working then. I was on maternity leave.
Oh, Alex, sorry, but you still basically had a full-time job when your daughter was that age.
I didn't.
Also, you moved house during that time, remember?
I moved when she was 8 months old, but yeah, but like 4 months old or whatever it was, it's just, honestly, I'm like, how have you got this much time? How can you even cook? Like, I couldn't even have a shower. Like,
also she's doing nappies. Yeah, it's all
exactly, Bex, exactly. But I love their effort, and I love the fact she wants to go back to being a nurse.
Yeah.
So basically, they find out they've got a clinic. Dr. Turner comes in like, oh, guess what, ladies? Like, we've got a clinic now on a Tuesday. Can we have it on a Tuesday? Yes, you can have it on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And they're like going on about, oh, I want to do like baby gymnastics or something. And she's like, ooh. Anyway, so they're saying they got it, but then Chummy comes with Freddie to clinic, and she can have the whole service because basically no one's shown up because no one knows where it is.
Right.
So Chummy's like, I've got so much time, oodles of time. I'll do a leafleting service all across the whole of Poplar.
Poplar, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she does that, and then she finds out from Peter that not Sister Monica Joan. Why have I just said that? Someone else said that as well for Princess Margaret.
Princess Margaret.
No, I said Sister Margaret. It was Princess Margaret.
Yeah.
Well, although I thought I'd done it so you could cut it and edit out my mistake, but perhaps
right,
we won't edit that.
Anyway, that sounds literally that you made our life easier actually then. So yeah, Princess Margaret's coming to Poplar for some really boring engagement. Found out it's the day that the clinic's actually going to be, all the new community centre is going to be open. Yeah. So Chummy writes a letter to her old pal. It just love the fact that she knows Princess Margaret. I just love it. I love the fact that this thing, like, you know, she just knows. Oh, I haven't seen him since Pa's investiture. Like, well, what?
And when the envelope from Clarence's house comes through the letterbox, like, oh goodness gracious.
Yeah, and she says that because they're saying about how thick the paper is, and she's like, it's always like that, even when it's one of the ladies in waiting. How often is Princess Margaret writing to Chummy?
Well, exactly. But that's the whole point. That's what I think is so brilliant about it. Like, she's never, you know, lets on about it or brags about it. It's just part of her life. Like, I just think that's really funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, Chummy goes on to this massive effort. She starts making up clubs like a floristry club and all this as like the big opening. And they have the cubs there, and they have all these different things. They have this awful girl guide band, and all this. And basically for the opening of Princess Margaret, so Princess Margaret actually has something to come and look at on the day.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and wait, just two things. Okay, one, Chummy is like they're all talking about this when Alec is visiting Jenny at Nonnatus House, and so Chummy is saying like that, you know, the band is going to play and everything, and Cynthia's like, really, they're actually terrible, and I know that because I'm with them every single week. And Alex is like, oh well, I played the trumpet in the RAF, like maybe I can come by and help. And Cynthia's like, yes, please do. And so he's there, which is really cute, kind of integrated, like shows them that they're, you know, like a really happy couple or whatever. And then the other thing, now Chummy, we'll talk about this a little more in just a second, but Chummy is passing out a flyer to one of the local moms, and the mom is sitting there and she's really heavily pregnant, and she's had this
Mrs.
is her, like,
Torpy.
Yeah, this is her, like, you know, however many kids she's already had, and one of her daughters is standing right behind her, like with her friends, like talking and everything, and she says something like, oh, you know, this one, like, you know, she won't help me at all or whatever, like she's just practicing her makeup so she can go down something
Cable Street.
She says when she's got a job, she says, oh, she's practicing her makeup for when she's got a job, and her mum's like, yeah, job down Cable Street. I just loved it.
And Cable Street is where all the sex workers are.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, I think that's a communication. But like, just like, and then later on when Mrs. Torpy is giving birth, and like all the roads are closed off because Princess Margaret's here, and that no one can get through, the ambulances are really delayed and everything, so Chummy has to help the mother. And so they take Mrs. Torpy into Chummy's living room, and then she runs out, and she's like, Cheryl, like go to the Nonnatus house and get one of the nuns and like, midwives or whatever, and tell them to come and everything like that. And then she goes right back in, and Cheryl is like, you could have said please, and like gives this look and everything. And Bex, it really made me think of your niece, because I just thought, oh my gosh, like this little girl is so like way, like she's just so mature beyond her years, and she's just got this very like teenagery attitude and everything of like, oh geez, you could have said please, and like I don't know, it just really it made me.
You're so right.
Yeah, like
So,
like she'll do
sorry.
it, but she'll just give you a big attitude about it as well, which really made me laugh.
But when Chummy was like, oh, I'll come in and sit with you, and she's like, oh, I don't want to be around all these children that you've had.
To be fair though, I understand that.
But then she goes into Chummy's house and she's like, oh, didn't she makes a comment about the sofa? Like, oh, I hope the sofa's not.
Well, she's like, I'm going to ruin it because my waters haven't broken. So if you want me to like,
throw us a tea towel. So she has quite a difficult birth. The shoulders aren't coming out. It sounds awful. I'm not going to lie. It made me cringe. But anyway, so Chummy gives birth. Chummy aids in the birth.
Yeah, helps deliver the baby.
It's all come back to her, and she was really emotional. It was all like she loved it so much, and she remembered how much she loved it. And the baby was fine, everything was fine, but it obviously kickstarted something in Chummy being like, do you know what? I want to do this again. Yeah. So she goes back to the Nonnatus house. She goes to speak to Sister Evangelina. No,
Sister Julienne.
Yeah, I meant Julienne. And she's just like, look, I want to do that. And he's like, well, if your husband, and she's like, oh, if I could do something 2 days a week, maybe, if you can get childcare for Freddie, and if your husband's agreeable. Such a 1950s comment. But then she's like, Peter's always agreeable. I was like, yes, he is.
When has he ever not agreed?
Exactly.
Oh man.
Anyway, we're very running out of time, ladies.
I know. Is there anything we didn't cover that we could just last real quick put in there?
Well, I want to talk about the fact that there's one bit in the show where Sister Monica Joan has got a plate of biscuits, and she's doing the books upstairs, and she's trying to eat all the stuff, and she's like, oh, why don't you? And Sister Evangelina's like, oh, why don't you just take the plate? Keep your strength up and all. And she just does. She just walks off with all the plate of biscuits. I love that bit.
Oh man.
It was a plate of eclairs, wasn't it? Because I was thinking, oh, lovely.
It was eclairs, you're right, which is even worse, but even more amazing. It's even funnier.
I don't know where she puts it all. Oh my gosh.
Right, so shall we start on heroes and zeros of the week?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll go first. My hero of the week is Merle.
Yes.
What a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Loved her so much.
Mm-hmm.
My zero of the week, I think it's going to be Sister Evangelina for giving Sister Winifred the Savoy. It's mean-hearted. I like it. And I love Sister Evangelina, but that was just mean.
I'm going to go my hero of the week. Okay, I'm going to start with, my hero of the week is going to be Sister Monica Joan for saving the day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, my zero of the week is going to be Dr. Turner for not saving the day.
Until the very last minute after he'd gotten
until Sister Monica Joan had to step in.
Do you think that make him extra anxious, the fact that there's medical history of that, yeah?
Oh gosh. Oh geez. I always do this. I'll put my zero as ineffective community engagement in advance to let the wives and moms and ladies of Poplar know where the clinic was every single time, and to help them more to access it even in the transitionary period. There's no point in having a resource if no one can get to it, or if they don't know what it is or where it is. So that was not very well done on the part of the council or whoever was organizing that. My hero, and this is a little bit of a build on Al, your one, but the strong marriage and the teamwork of Merle and Billy together as parents, and their commitment to their kids, and really taking care of them, and valuing what matters most, which is love, and the bond of a family who really cares about each other and takes care of each other. I love them. They're such a great couple.
And that's a lovely high to end on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. Follow us online, and we hope you listen to the next one, which will be series 2. No, series 3,
Series
episode
3.
2.
Yeah. We'll see you all soon.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.